Welcome to the sortitoutsi League Guide for Hungary, where we're going to look at the league structure within Football Manager 2023 and run through 5 save ideas if you want to start your career in Hungary. So on FM23, Hungary has 2 playable leagues with a total of 32 playable teams, and the season in Hungary is a traditional European winter season, so runs from roughly August or the end of July through to May or the beginning of June. It's quite a long season, and there are 2 tiers, obviously, that we've said, that are relatively straightforward but quite a bit different from each other. So we'll cover both levels of the playable pyramid, including the European qualification and the domestic cup competition, which is the Magyar Kupa. So the highest playable league in Hungary is the 12-team OTP Bank Liga, which is the National Division 1. I think it's what it's actually called in Hungarian. But each team in this league, in this 12-team league, plays the other 11 teams 3 times to complete a 33-game regular season. There's no split halfway. It's every team 3 times. Quite simple and straightforward. There are currently 4 European places up for grab in Hungary. 3 automatically go to the league. There's a Champions League space and then 2 Conference League spaces, I believe, by the first season. And the final place, the 4th place, goes to the winner of the Magyar Kupa, provided they haven't already got a league qualification place, in which case it gets dropped into the league, as is standard with UEFA qualification places these days. So if the cup winner's already got a place, 4th place in the league goes into the Conference League as well. At the other end of the table, there are simply 2 automatic relegation places, and that's it. 2 sides fall into the 2nd tier. No playoffs, no relegation playoffs or promotion playoffs between the top 2 levels. It's as simple as that. 12 teams, 2 go down, 4 go into Europe, so it's quite competitive. You get some big teams having a poor season. The risk of relegation is there immediately because it's not a big league at all. Right, now we said the 2nd tier, that is the Mercantile Bank Liga, so the 2nd division. This is much larger. It's not a 12-team league, it's a 20-team league. So they just play a simple double round robin schedule. And once that's complete, each team has played 38 games. So that's the total game for the season for the 2nd tier. At the end of each season, the top 2 teams, they're automatically promoted to replace the teams that come down from the top flight. Simple. Done. Promotion is as simple as the top 2 teams. No playoffs, again, at the top of the table. Now, down at the bottom, it's slightly more complicated. So there are 2 automatic relegation places, but there are a further 3 teams that go into a relegation playoff against teams from the unplayable 3rd tier. Now, the 3rd tier, I believe, is split into East, West, and Central. So there's 3 teams from those that play the 3 teams at the bottom of the table. And winners go up, losers go down. So it's as simple as that. It's just a simple, straight relegation playoff between 6 teams. Right, that is the league structure. It's quite straightforward. There's only 2 tiers on FM23. Now we're going to head to the domestic cup competition. Now, we've already mentioned it. It's called the Magyar Kupa. And as mentioned already, it's given a qualifying place to Europe for the winner. Now, the competition sees 128 teams from the unplayable leagues, the 3rd level and below, enter in the first round. There's a second round, which is just between the winners of those first round games. And then when we get to the 3rd round, the 32 playable league teams from the top 2 divisions, they drop into the 3rd round. And then from there, the 64 teams go straight into a knockout tournament all the way through to the final. And the winner gets a qualification place for Europe. Quite straightforward. So, the league structure and the cup structure, not difficult to get your head around. So, with that, all of that covered, we're going to have a look at 5 fantastic save ideas for Hungary across both levels to cover as many teams as we can within both leagues. So, the first team are quite simply the most dominant team and the most recent winners in Hungary. It's Ferencváros, who have won 33 Hungarian titles in total, which is the record. They've also hold the record for the most Magyar Kupa victories as well, with 24. And they even made it to a UEFA Cup Winners' Cup final back in 1975, back when we had the old-style European Cup competitions. But unfortunately, they lost to Dynamo Kiev. I believe it's 3-0. Quite a convincing loss in the end. But it hasn't always been straightforward for FTP. They did have a short blip with some financial issues in the 2000s, which saw them drop from the top flight for 3 seasons. I think it's the only 3 seasons in their history where they haven't been in the top flight of Hungarian football. But since then, since they've got back into the OTB Bank Liga, they have won another 5 titles since then. I think they came back in 2008. So they've won 5 titles in the last 10 or 15 years. And the challenge here, once you take over them as manager, is quite simple. Continue domestic dominance, assert yourself as the top team in Hungary without any doubts, and then secure a foothold in European competition. Try and get into the group stages, and maybe even to the knockouts as well in the future. Right, the second team we have on this list. Next we have Puskás Akadémia, who are a reasonably new side, having only been formed back in 2005. Now for me that feels like 5 years ago, but people tell me it's nearly 20, which is ridiculous. They were originally formed to serve as the academy team for another club who were going to feature on this list, but we pulled them out again to replace them with Puskás Akadémia. Is Fehérvár, who have recently won the league a couple of times. But Puskás Akadémia have quickly found success and were in the top flight by 2013. So they're only in existence for about 8 years before they got themselves into the top flight. And PAFC, unsurprisingly, they've got good youth facilities and recruitment. And in recent seasons, they've found themselves near the top of the Hungarian league, challenging for the title, finishing second and third in each of the last 3 seasons. So your challenge is to continue fighting the odds and fighting for a potential Hungarian title against the bigger clubs, using the club's youth facilities, building a great young side, and ascending to the top of Hungarian football, and regularly putting the big clubs in their place. The next team we're going to feature is Debrecen, who are one of the most successful Hungarian clubs, and particularly the most successful since the year 2000. They've won 7 titles in those 23 years, but they're also a side that have found themselves in the second tier as recently as 2021. So they've had a bit of a roller coaster, but after surviving that recent roller coaster, Debrecen are looking for some stability. They do have good facilities as well in order to create that secure footing. So once their place in the OTB Bank Liga has been secured for a few seasons, you can start looking to return the side to Europe, which should surely be the aim, especially because in the last 15 years, probably nearer 15 years than today, they've appeared in both the group stages of the Champions League and the Europa League. I do remember them playing Liverpool in the Champions League in about 2010. So they've got some European pedigree, so it's your job to try and return them to the top table of European football. Now, the next team is going to be a drop down into the second tier, and that is a club you probably will have heard of. It's MTK Budapest. Now, they have won 23 Hungarian titles throughout their storied history, and the most recent of which came in 2008. So they're another club. As I mentioned with the Hungarian top flight, there's only 12 teams, so you have a bad season, relegation is immediately a risk no matter who you are. So they're another club that have fallen on hard times recently. They've been bouncing between the top 2 leagues a fair bit, but they do have good facilities in the second tier and incredible youth recruitment, and now that is something you need to use to your advantage should you become the new manager of MTK Budapest. They're surely favourites to return to the top flight immediately, and they do also have some European pedigree to lean on. They're another Hungarian side to reach a UEFA Cup Winners' Cup final, and another one to lose it as well. This time it was back in 1964, so earlier than Ferencváros, but they lost to Sporting on that occasion. So they've got that nice history to set a backdrop for your challenge to return them back to the top of Hungarian football and get back into Europe. Now, the final team that we're going to highlight on this list is Diószegyer, which I've probably pronounced wrong, and they're a team which doesn't have a massive trophy cabinet. But they do have several years' experience in the top flight and even the odd European appearance and potentially ban, given some fan activity. But they are a side that have been recently relegated from the top league and look to be well placed to return back to that OTP Bank Liga under the right management. Now, they've had their fair share of financial struggles over the years. They've been bankrupted twice in the last 25 years. But that doesn't seem to have stopped them from bouncing back and forth between the top 2 leagues. So with the right management and the right financial stability, you can definitely take this team back to the top flight, secure your place in the top flight before looking back towards Europe, which should be the challenge for any club you manage in Hungary. The league is that small in the top flight that you've got to start looking for Europe immediately once you get a few seasons under your belt and challenge for that first ever Hungarian title for the club. Right then, there we have it. That was a whistle-stop tour of the playable Hungarian leagues on Football Manager 2023, along with 5 great save ideas for you to try out. So if you're familiar with either real-life Hungarian football or you've managed there on Football Manager, whether it's this version of the game or previous ones, head to the comments down below, share your thoughts, corrections, pronunciations definitely, and any stories of managing in Hungary. I've never personally managed in Hungary, but it looks like it could be a lot of fun with that short, small top flight season. But if you're also there, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Remember to like this video and check out more league guides that are going to be appearing right now and all the other great content here on the channel. Thanks a lot for watching.